So the other day it was raining and I couldn't cut because, I don't have a building for my sawmill yet. So I went over to a buddy's house. This is Ervin Miller. He has this old LT40 Wood-mizer sawmill. And Ervin cuts mostly lumber for people. He's a custom sawyer. They bring him logs, they tell him what they want it cut into, and he cuts it up for them. So he wouldn't let me interview him on camera, but he was more than happy to let me film his mill in action with him running it. So I could show you guys on YouTube. The problem was the sawmill is really loud. It's a 30 horsepower diesel, and he's got a tin roof on this building, and it's pouring down rain, so the sound is really horrible. You couldn't hear anything we were saying. You can hear the engine running a little bit. I'll leave some of that audio in here, but I'm going to have to just narrate through this and tell you what's happening. So this is a pine log that he put on there. It's about 19 or 20 inches in diameter. Nice log. Got a little bit of a bow to it. He's about to saw the belly of the bow off here. He's turning it so the hump is up. This is, like I said, an LT40. It is not a wide, so the maximum cut width on this saw is about 24 to 25 inches. But it's all hydraulic. You can turn the log, you load the logs. It's got the hydraulic lifters you just saw going down. Very similar to what Out of the Woods uses. He's got an LT70 now. So this is the one he had before the LT70 was an LT40. This is like that, but this one's really old. Ervin's got about 6,000 hours on this, I think he said. He bought it 16 years ago, and he bought it used. He did not buy it new. And he just runs it every day. He runs 6 days a week cutting wood for people. And this is one of the reasons I bought a Wood-mizer, was because of guys like this. You see them running these old mills, and they're just, running year after year after year. I mean, he's replaced a lot of parts on it. The electrical, they've got like a little generator that recharges the battery, and he actually had to replace that with an alternator. So it's got a big car alternator on it up there. You can see it sticking out at the top there. But man, this thing cuts. He can rip through pine like nobody's business. And a lot of guys, when they cut pine, they'll use diesel fuel for a lubricant, instead of soap and water, or they'll use pine sol and water. Ervin's got an even better idea than that. He uses old cooking oil, old vegetable oil from a restaurant that's nearby that he gets for free. And he doesn't have it dripping. It's just when he hears the blade start to strain a little bit, to hang up in the log, he'll just reach up and turn the knob, and it gets a little squirt of oil on the blade, and that's all you need for like the next 5 or 6 cuts, and then he'll do it again. It's a pretty slick idea. I may try that when I cut up a pine log. I'll just use some vegetable oil in a little squirt bottle and squirt some on the blade instead of running it through my cooling system. So Ervin is 69 years old, and this guy, you watch him throw these boards around, he's in great shape. He's in better shape than I am, and he's older than me, so I was just amazed. Very pleasant fellow. Nicest guy you ever met, really. He's helped me so much. He's sold me some logs. He's given me so many tips on sawing, you just wouldn't believe it. And I love this mill. This mill is great. In the background there, off to the left side, he's got a blade sharpener. And it was one of the electric blade sharpeners, but he's Amish, so they don't have electric. So he converted it to run on a 12-volt car battery. And I took him one of my blades to see if he can sharpen it. He wasn't sure because it's a lot bigger than his blades. Mine's the wide model. So he's intrigued by my sawmill because I can cut a much wider log than he can. So every now and then he gets these guys, they want to slab out a big log, and he can't do it. He has to saw off one side and cut it down to 25 inches, and the widest board he can make, or the widest slab he can make, is 25 inches wide. So when they have a log bigger than that, he said he's going to send them to me to slab it. told him, just save the log there and I'll bring the sawmill up and we can cut it there. He's got a huge log. I don't know if you can see it in the background here with it raining so hard, but I'm supposed to go up and help him cut that up. It's behind that pile of logs all the way on the right there. But it's about 45 inches in diameter. It's a huge pine log. I don't know if we can even cut it with my mill, but if it fits through the uprights, we will. So he was sawing this log for me just to show everybody how he cuts a log into boards. And it was really pouring down rain. We wanted to get out there. He had a cherry log for me he was going to load on my trailer, and we ended up sitting around talking and making this video for about 2 hours waiting for the rain to die down enough where we could go get the log without getting soaking wet. So he leans over like this every time in order to see where his log turner is. I know with the LT70 the controls are all the way down at the end and you can kind of center them so you can see what you're doing, but with the 35 it's a little bit hard to see sometimes. I walked around and got as good a shot as I could. Here I was just showing that he got that lined up on those uprights so it's perfectly perpendicular to the bed. So his next cut will be right at 90 degrees to the cut that he made already. And man, when he starts cutting this engine, it's a big, 30-some horse diesel. It actually shakes the floor. When he pulls this lever down and that engine cranks up, you can feel the vibrations coming through the floor. It's really cool. And it's a powerful song. So here he's zipping through this log. I think he was a little nervous having me there with the camera, to tell you the truth. But he didn't want to make any mistakes, Don't screw up on camera. This log was, I think, 14 foot long. I don't remember now. Maybe it's 12, maybe it's 14, but it was a good sized log. It was pretty long. And he cuts 20-foot long logs sometimes. I've seen him do it. I can't believe he fits those through that mill, but he'll get a 20-footer on there. So there he goes, throwing the boards off. His daughter comes out when she gets home in the afternoons. But she goes out and helps him. She'll stack the wood for him while he's cutting, which I thought was pretty cool. So he does have some help there. So what he does is he cuts the bark off, and then he makes one more cut to take one board off. He's going to cut this log into 2x6s for this order. So that board there, I think, is 5/4. So it's like 1 1/4 inches thick. So he's just going to move that other board out of the way there. Oh, he wanted to throw it in the pile. I tried to help him one-handed. This thing was really heavy. I could hardly hold it up with one hand. Then I had to hold my camera hand. I had to bring over to the log. That's why it's showing you the bark up close. I wasn't really trying to show you anything. I was just trying to hang on to it. And right about here, there's a puddle. It's like a lake. So he's out in the rain. I let go of it because I stepped in the lake. And then right here, I dropped the camera in the water. Sorry, folks. You got a little wet.
Well, there we go. It's fine.
But yeah, 69 years old. Look at him go.
That must be raining a lot. Yeah. You do what I do. You cut big chunks.
And then he pulls that board off of there like it was nothing. I hope I'm in that good of shape when I'm 60. That's, you can see the sharpener there in the background. If you rewind it a little bit, you see it there. It's got a blade sitting on it. It looks like a metal halo. So now he made 2 cuts, and now he put, see that roller that's under the log? He lifts the log up and checks to make sure there's no bark that got under the log on top of the bunks, and he sets the log down flat. Now he had those rollers up to make the other 2 cuts just enough to center the width of the log, the center of the log, so it was the same height at both ends. Now that he's got 2 cuts, he can make parallel cuts on the top and the other side, and he'll get a nice square cant out of it with the width of the log centered in that cant. Here's some of the other wood he's been sawing up this week. He cut all of that. Those buckets there are because they do maple syrup too. You see he sawed some cookies. I didn't see those when I was there. I must have walked right past them. All those slabs he's got in the back against the wall, those are just offcuts that he sells to people who come to visit him for like $5 or $10 a piece. And these craftspeople come from all over the place to buy anything he's got laying around. So there he's cutting the top off again. This was a heavy cut that he took. And that was a chunk of wood that came to weigh 150 pounds when he knocked it off there. When he knocked it off there. And then he'll cut it in half and throw it out the back door into his burn pile back there. He's got a nice fire going behind this building. In the winter, as he backs up here, you'll see it on the left. There's a wood burner there.
Some big chunks again.
No, I was going to go help him. I thought we were going to take that out the front, and he took it out the back instead. Show you that in a second. So there he's got his chainsaw out. There's the wood burner. He fires that thing up, and it keeps him warm standing next to the mill, and this building is still all open all winter long. And he's in there sawing. This guy, he just amazes me. He works so hard. You know, for me, this is just a hobby. I'm not doing this for a living. I'm not trying to make a lot of money at it. You know? But he makes a living this way. He charges people 20 cents a board foot to saw up their logs, which that's pretty cheap. But if you cut fast enough, you can make some decent money on it. Look at him tossing these logs around. This guy's going to live to be 100, I swear. He's in great shape for 69. You can see on the side of the mill, you see those lines on that orange rail. That's from the chain. When it gets loose, it rubs against the rail there. And it's just, this is so old, it's just rubbed little grooves into that rail. There's the control panel. He's got one switch that's missing. I'm not sure what that was for. And then there's his log scales, so you can see how high above the log bunks he is. There's a dial there on the right side where the round section of the sawmill is, on the head. There's a dial for how tight the blade is, you know, for your blade tension. And you're supposed to take it up to, I think it's 2,000 psi, and then a little past that, they've got like a red zone. He runs it beyond the red zone. If you watch for that dial, at one point I get a close-up of it, and you can see how far beyond the red zone he runs this thing. Because you make the blade extra tight, and when you're cutting through one of these pine logs and you hit a knot, you don't get that dipping or raising. You know, it makes a nice flat cut, is because he's over-tightening the blade. And, I mean, he knows more about this sawmill than the guys that built it, so I believe him when he says that works for him. He's been doing this for 30-some years. So right there he's just notching off the top of the log, just so that it's not so heavy when it goes to cut it, the next cut. I do that all the time too, because otherwise you just get too thick a cut. That end right there is a nice heavy piece of wood. Then after he's done cutting a log, he takes a shovel and shovels all this sawdust out into his burn pile. He sells some of it, I guess, to the guys that have horses and things, but most of the time he'll just throw it in the burn pile, especially on a day like today when it's raining. The sawdust is all wet, it's not good for anything. Okay, so there's the skim cut to take the bark off. He was nervous I was walking right behind him. He started laughing at me. I'm not sure what you were doing there behind me. Alright, so there goes taking it out the front. Now here I tried to wipe some sawdust off the top here so I could see the log. And man, I got sap, pitch from the log all over my hand. These logs are so sticky. He's wearing gloves, so he doesn't get sticky, but he's got sticky all over the side of his arm wherever he touches the wood. Right there. That one wipe, my hand was sticky for an hour. I mean, it's like syrup all over this log. And he keeps his blade clean just by using cooking oil, which blows my mind because you can get that from any restaurant for free. They empty their deep fryer. All he does is run it through a coffee filter and he puts it in his tank. So I don't know what he was lining up there. Oh, he was moving it, trying to decide which side he wants to start cutting off of. See, because you got those right on the very top point there. You got all that bark. So he's trying to figure out which side to take a board off of that'll get rid of most of that bark. He's really good at this. Every now and then, even with an automatic mill, you do have to go and push it around by hand, get it back on the mill. But imagine trying to flip this log around like this by hand all day long. That would be too much. That's why these hydraulic sawmills are so nice. I couldn't afford to spend that much money for a hobby. I think the LT35 today probably runs about $35,000 to $40,000. The LT40 is probably a little bit more than that, a couple of thousand more than that. There, he was showing me the pitch on his hand, all the sap on his hand. That's why I wear gloves. So I'm guessing Ervin's probably about 5'2", maybe 5'3". I mean, he's not a big, strong lumberjack guy. He's just a normal, everyday guy. And man, he flips this stuff around like it was nothing. He's got boards on the floor there, so when he walks next to the mill, he's at the right height for cutting. That's just a scrap board. He's taking that out. We gotta throw it over in the scrap pile, I guess. That's my truck in the background. That's a whole pile of pine logs he's got there. He had to cut, I think he said 150 2x6s, and then a bunch of 1x6s and 10x10s, some other stuff, 2x4s maybe. So he's trying to whittle this cant down so he can turn it into 2 cants that are 6-inch wide. And then he'll cut through those and make 2x6s. So that's a nice heavy board cut. You know what's funny? I've been a computer geek all my life, so I'm used to sitting down all day. If I stand up for 3 hours, my back starts to hurt. But I find when I'm sawing wood, my back doesn't hurt. I can be out there 3, 4, 5 hours, and my back doesn't hurt at all. It's really kind of impressive. And then when I'm done, it does. But while I'm cutting, I don't notice it. All right, so here I think he's going to cut it into 2 cants. That's the next cut he makes here. First he's going to go torque his blade up a little tighter because it leaks down. About every 10-15 minutes he's got to go over there and readjust it because he's got the pressure so high on this thing. So yeah, it looks like this is the one we're cutting into 2 cants. He goes right down the middle here. Right, so you can see the blade is going through some of the knots. It does not waver at all. He gets such nice flat cuts on pine. And it cuts fast too. He zooms through these lots. The other thing I noticed about this mill is when he disengages the blade, it stops, so fast. It's like you go 1, 2 and the blade is stopped. It does not spin for 10 seconds or something like some of the other sawmills you see. Because there's a brake in there. And when you flip that lever up to disengage the blade, the brake slows the blade down, and his stops really quick. He's got that brake tightened up pretty tight. So there he flipped it, and he got one of the cants to fall off into the log arms, and the other one stayed on there, so he didn't have to go in there and manually do anything, really. It's pretty good with those hydraulics. I see a little black walnut slab in the background. That short one. He saves all the pretty scraps. There he is, tightening the blade. I think this is where I get a close-up of that gauge.
You got that really tight.
I don't get real close to it, but close enough you should be able to see it. Yeah, there you go. You can see where the red zone is, and the needle's way below it. So here he's cutting the 2x6s. Zips through, pushes it off, comes back, and he does this all day long. See, I don't cut pine that much because I'm not cutting structural lumber. I'm just making slabs and unusual wide boards or curly boards or curvy boards, whatever. I'm not trying to be a lumber house, But I am going to have to get some pine logs, probably from the same place he gets them. And I need to cut the timbers I need for my building so I can get a refill from the sawmill so that when it's raining like this, I can still be outside sawing. That would be nice. I could saw in the garage, but I got no way to get the logs in the garage easily. A sawmill building will have a nice 20-foot span so you can drive in with the log sideways and put it right up on the mill. My garage is not geared for that, so cutting in there doesn't really work. he was just adjusting the pivotal log bunk there. The LT40 has a bunk you can put at different angles. And then he takes this wood, he takes it out here and stacks it. And I mean, these are these are wet 2x6s, okay? This wood is not dried yet, and they're 12 or 14 foot long. And he grabs them, hauls them out there, and stacks them up 2 at a time. No problem. How many 69-year-olds do you know that do that?
You're 70 years old.
No, not yet.
69. Slinging this wood around like it was nothing.
Well, this ain't heavy air.
Yeah, but it kept you healthy. That's good.
My daughter will be out here pretty soon. I think she came home from work.
She comes out and helps.
Sometimes she does have to.
So he's just finishing up the log now, pretty close to the end of the video. And this is all I filmed that day. I mean, I was visiting him and he agreed to let me do this, so I thought that was nice of him. So, appreciate you guys watching. You know, I'll try and get better at making videos as time goes by, but I'm doing what I can for now. I can't believe how much it takes to put one of these videos together. I mean, if it's a 20-minute video, I'll bet I spend 2 hours, 3 hours putting that video together and editing it, because, you know, you got to watch it 4 times to really get it going. I didn't do all that much editing in this particular video. But Ervin has a really nice setup. You know, everybody knows him in the area. They all go to him to cut up their lumber. And there's another sawmill 2 houses down the road from him. And there's more Wood-mizers out here by us than there are at the Wood-mizer place in PA. So, here's the last cut. Last board he's cutting through there. And again, thank you all for watching. Hope you have a great day.